We light up the world. We light up the world.
Welcome to Fire to Inspire, the podcast. I'm your host, Angel Yasmin. And today's quote is, follow your heart, but don't forget to take your brain with you. We're going to go into our series, The Power of Consciousness, Part 5. We are so honored to have Linda Pitsoulis, who was born to Greek immigrant parents raised in New York. She's an Awakened Oneness Facilitator and a non-denominational minister through Universal Life Church Ministries. Linda is a master-level higher brain living facilitator, founding member of Source Code Meditation and the New Human University. Let's welcome Linda to the show.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited.
My pleasure.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and fire away. So how did you get started on your journey to become a master-level higher brain facilitator, and describe what that entails?
Well, let me tell you, I was truly guided, really guided. I found it at an expo, and I resonated right away because the brain always intrigued me. And the booth had a big poster of a brain. And I was like, okay, what is this? So all I had to do is go to a presentation a few nights later because I wasn't not going to go. And I had 2 introductory sessions. The first one blew me away. And I'm talking blew me away. Went to the second one. It was just as powerful, but differently. I'm like, okay, I need to spread the word to my friends. That's how I started my path back in 2013.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about what it means.
It's an extensive training from standard, advanced to mastery level.
Okay.
So it involves cumulative training and evolvement.
Okay.
And the evolvement is the biggest key.
Okay.
Because the whole objective is to not only activate, offer it to other people, but activate your own brain and live the life that you're introducing to others.
So how does the brain work exactly when you're pertaining to the conscious mind?
Conscious mind or consciousness?
The consciousness.
Okay, the whole objective behind consciousness is to raise it, right?
Okay.
All right, we're born an empty slate. An infant, you look at an infant and they are just empty. They are in the present. And isn't that what we pursue when we do meditations and yogas and stuff like that, where we want to live in the present? That's the whole objective. Well, an infant with an empty slate grows up little by little, and literally the brain develops more and more, increasing the level of consciousness and awareness, basically. So you have an infant at first, they're just laughing, or when they want food, they'll cry. And no matter how much you try to manipulate them to stop crying, they know they're hungry, they want food.
Yes.
The whole idea is that they are living from the innate quality of what started off in humanity, the survival part of the brain, where the caveman was looking to survive. Well, the child initially is only looking to survive. Little by little, as the child evolves and develops, they develop higher consciousness and have other ways of looking at their surroundings and experiencing their surroundings. So the brain goes through stages of development. Consciousness raises as that happens. And the most recent layer of brain that's been bestowed upon us is the prefrontal cortex. And you've heard the statistic where we only use like 10% of our brain's potential.
I didn't know that.
Really?
I had not.
Yeah, a lot of people.
Teach me, Linda. I didn't know that.
Well, there's a lot of percentages out there, and actually they say we only use 10% of our brain. We use 100% of our brain, but only 10% of its potential. The prefrontal cortex has so much potential, and we haven't tapped into it.
And this is in the front. This is right here.
Prefrontal, yeah.
Okay.
See, we operate from our lower brains, the limbic, the survival, fight, flight. That's the oldest part of the brain. So the logic says, back in the caveman days. So the logic says we've been using it a lot longer as humans. So not just as people, individuals. And let's talk about that infant again. That infant goes through all kinds of different things in its personal development, and it's absorbing things based on the environment it's growing up in. And it's formulating the reality or the lens through which it's going to see the world and perceive things. So ultimately, once we reach a higher state, or the prefrontal cortex, to clean up the dysfunctionalities that may have occurred, which have to occur, right? I mean, nobody has perfect parents, nobody has a perfect environment, whatever.
No.
So to clean it all up, one needs to look back and clean things up, but you have to do it from a prefrontal cortex perspective.
So how can one mobilize or unlock inner energy that resides in us?
Well, the objective is to wake up the brain.
Okay.
The energy that resides within us is slumbering, or the brain is slumbering, and then that energy, we're not taking advantage of it. We're not leveraging it.
Okay.
Now, Dr. Cotton, who's developed higher brain living and source code meditation, his concept is that the higher brain, the prefrontal cortex, and this energy that we have within our bodies were formed together to work with one another like a system. He doesn't say it this way. I'm just saying it this way.
Yeah.
We have a circulatory system, a respiratory system. They're all in cahoots with each other. Well, the higher brain, the prefrontal cortex, and this latent energy that's in our body, it's an inner technology that is not being utilized. So how do we activate it? We activate the brain first. It stimulates what we call a salutogenic response. It's a breathing, and it's an involuntary breathing that you could stop, but you don't have to because it feels so good. But then it feeds into the higher brain. It circulates throughout the body. It helps dissipate stress. It's unbelievable in what it offers.
What does it mean exactly to be awakened? How can you awaken the brain?
You awaken it with that brain shift.
Okay.
With the brain shift. It's kind of like a scale.
Okay.
Right now, most of us live, the center of our gravity is the lower brain.
Okay.
The objective is, and it steals all the energy. Everything that happens to us gets filtered through the lower brain.
Okay, so which one is the creative brain? What's the part that we are supposed to use our purpose and to get out there and inspire? So what part of the brain do we use?
That is the prefrontal cortex.
That's okay.
That's
the part we don't use much of.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And why is that?
It's because the lower brain that's been in existence for far so long is hoarding all the energy. It's taking all the energy. The lower brain is survival. It doesn't care whether you're happy, whether you're wanting to inspire people.
It just wants to eat and go to sleep.
It just wants to wake up in the morning alive. That's all it cares about.
Right.
So it will keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, day in and day out, as long as you're alive. Okay. It doesn't care about anything else. That's why whenever you try to change things, it won't let you.
And that's where fear creeps in.
Yeah,
that's where it lives. That's where it lives.
And stress. It stresses out. So it's using all your, like the cortisol. It's releasing cortisol.
Yes.
So that's why we're so under stress, because the lower brain doesn't know that you're going to a better job today, or that you're trying to get a better job. It's stress. Don't go to that job. We did just fine before.
We're okay right here.
You don't need more money. We've been eating the mac and cheese all our lives. We're doing good.
And the fries.
Yeah. So, the lower brain's motto is sameness equals safety. It doesn't care. It doesn't care. And that's the thing. So it takes up all the energy. So by activating and to create the shift in the brain, we have to stimulate the latent energy that's within our body, send it into the prefrontal cortex, get it working so that it could basically turn off the lower brain. We're not going to get rid of the lower brain. You need to know.
You have
like when you're crossing the street, you need to look forward. Wait,
you got to get alert.
Yeah. But the whole idea is shifting the higher brain, shifting the energy, the scale, our center of gravity. So if the higher brain is that operation, that's where the abundance, joy, clarity, confidence, abundance lives.
Yeah.
You want to live. You want to thrive. You're not just wanting to survive. Everybody uses that term, like strive,
but, all those terms.
Survive versus thrive. But truly, when your prefrontal cortex is activated, it comes naturally. You're not making the effort. And that's what you have to create that shift.
Let's go back a little bit to the awakening. what does it really mean to be awake?
To be awakened is to actually, once your brain, your prefrontal cortex is active, your level of consciousness will increase. You're looking from a higher perspective at everything.
Okay.
Your level of awareness is just multiplied so that you're seeing things from the view of 50,000 feet. You're not looking at that drama-based situation with your family member, like that's all. You're caught up in the drama of it, and you're repeating and repeating.
Mm-hmm.
The higher brain doesn't attach.
It doesn't even participate in it.
No. So what you're doing, you're awakening to higher levels of consciousness, and you're literally detaching yourself from all those previous identities and stories that you've had all your life. As you grew up, at first, I was the daughter of my parents. I am Linda, the daughter of William and Eleftheria. Then I was the teenager. I was the Girl Scout. I am a Girl Scout. I related to the world from that identity. So raising your level of consciousness shifts with what you identify with. And ultimately, you detach from the identity of I am what I am in this material world. You literally wake up to the fact that infant that didn't have all those stories attached to it was the closest thing. And that's when they say, we're remembering. You ever hear the phrase where people say, we're going back to remembering?
Yes.
You're remembering the state that child was in. Clean, unconditional, pure. And to get there,
I got chills. Oh my God, I got chills all over me.
A lot of people will experience, you could experience different states of consciousness from no matter what level of development you're in. The objective is to get yourself to the point where you're not caught up in these other states. There's a lot of states. I mean, you have the drunk state, you have the sleeping state, you have the, we don't want to be in those
Meaning
states.
your drunk friends. I got to the point where I didn't want to be around anybody because I loved my peace. But go ahead.
No, it's true. And
I
everybody,
love my bubble.
We go through that, though. It's part of the development and the process. You do hibernate for a little while until you could integrate.
Yeah.
And when you reach a certain point and you're awakened to these things, the life you knew is no longer your life. And it takes a while to acclimate and navigate it. And, okay, what works? How do I communicate with my friends? Are those friends good for me? Are we on the same page? Do we have anything in common anymore? Sometimes we don't. And as much as we may love them, that may be the end of that season, that poem. But you have to integrate. So I've, in different areas and different times over these years, when I come back from, let's say, a retreat, because Source Code Meditation does retreats, and when I go for training, we do retreats, I come back and I'm like a little discombobulated. It's kind of like, my soul's gone up here, and my body's here, and, I'm navigating the world.
I know.
And I have to
enter the world again.
Yes.
Back to reality.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes sad. I'm like, can I just stay at this happy place at all times?
Well,
you
can.
can.
No. You could get back into that happy place. What I'm saying about integrating is you're taking the new way of being in that higher state and having to navigate the world from there.
Okay.
And you don't go backwards. You don't go backwards. Now, the only way you're going to go backwards or you're going to stop your growth is if you don't take action. So when you awaken to a different level of consciousness, it's not just about waking up. It's about growing up.
Yes.
And showing up. Because the whole idea of growing up, you wake up, but you have to grow up. You have to take on different responsibilities. You have to look at your life. Sometimes some people, they don't want to see their faults. Well, no, you've got to see your faults. You need to look back and say to yourself, okay, what hasn't worked for me? And what can I do differently to approach this life differently, to have the better relationships that I want, to eat better, to have the health that I want. Yes. All those things, you need to grow up. You need to change your ways. You can't let the lower brain keep doing and staying the same. No, this hasn't been working. I'm getting sicker. I have to. So part of growing up is changing those ways and taking action. Right. And then ultimately show up. It's wake up, grow up, and show up. And what does it take to show up? You show up with your friends and you show them who you are, what you are. Be the vibrational energy
Yes.
and the example for them to want to elevate. And not necessarily, it's not showing up to show off. It's being who you are, changing who you are. And people pick up on those changes.
Oh, they do. And they do not like
it. They're used to sameness equals safety, right?
Yeah.
You know, like misery likes company.
Mm-hmm.
If you elevate yourself, you know, they're going to feel like, you know, they're going to be by themselves.
Yeah,
and they don't want to change.
They don't want to change. They want to stay the same.
Friends that see, you know, because I'm doing raw food, eating plan, juicing and stuff like that.
Yes.
But it's like they're starting to make changes because, okay, now they have a gallbladder attack or they have something going on. So they pick up. They know it's working for me. Mm-hmm. So they're noticing things and saying, you know, maybe she's onto something.
Yeah.
So it happens. And I mean, I'm getting calls from people left and right about different things. And people want to change. They're just afraid. The lower brain has them tied in that sameness equals safety motto. And that's the trick. Our world right now is in like a terrible place. There are statistics came out just recently about, you know, parents outliving their children. Mm-hmm. Suicides have doubled.
Oh, big time.
Right?
Yes.
Drug and alcoholism have doubled in the last 20 years. It's because the world has gotten so complex. The brain has developed over time, and people aren't tapping into that part of the brain to deal with the complexity. They're freaking out. Yeah. So it's imperative to how humanity is going to evolve that we activate and shift that brain into the prefrontal. It's in us. It's technology in us. We need, and that's why Michael Cotton developed it. I mean, he's been studying this stuff like 30 years. Mm-hmm. He's a genius. Mm-hmm. He's developed the way to do it. The Buddhas, the Tibetan monks, they've been doing it all these years. Yes. But do you have time to sit in a cave to meditate for 7 hours a day, 7 days a week?
Absolutely not.
Okay. The complexity of the world necessitated that this be discovered so that we could tap into it. That's the objective. They've studied monks, and the prefrontal cortex is active in them. Whereas with most people, they try to meditate, they go to yoga. Back in the day, yoga was not to relax from the stressful day you had. It was to connect to source. Okay?
I didn't know that.
Yes.
It's new to me.
That was the objective. That's why they did it. So
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And yoga itself, the movements, this was like, wow. The movements they do are movements that when you're in a higher state of consciousness, you'll naturally come to. So they thought, well, what if we taught people to do the movements, the hand, the breathing, the this, the that? Maybe we'll activate their brains. Or not their brains, but the energy within the body. Because that activates the energy in the body. Mm-hmm. So they didn't know how else to teach the general public, so to speak, how to reach that level of consciousness. So they said, well, this and this happened to me, and I was breathing, and that's how all these things have developed. We have to, as humanity, raise our level of consciousness.
What is the source code meditation?
Source code meditation is unique unto itself. You could get the book.
Okay.
This is the book.
Awesome. There it is.
Source Code Meditation, Hacking Evolution Through Higher Brain Activation. And he goes into it in extensive detail. It's, 15, 20 minutes a day, maybe twice a day to get maximum effect. Or you can get on the online course. He has an online course by the same name. Once you learn the contacts and the whole process of activating your brain, there are meditations. He introduces meditations in there to put you in touch with, because your brain is receptive. When you activate your brain, it's like a sponge. It absorbs everything that you introduce to it. So there are contemplated meditations that are introduced to take you to those higher levels. Okay. So, and you're focusing on the breath. It's a breath. It's a unique breath onto itself that starts within your body. And it's pretty cool when you start, on demand, because you'll learn also how to activate it on demand. Activate it on demand.
Okay.
And we have this technology in us.
Ooh.
I mean, it's in us, and it's a matter of getting the word out, spreading the word on the book, the online course, and I am a higher brain living facilitator.
Mm-hmm.
We do essentially the same thing, hands-on sessions, because a lot of people, they may not, I don't know about consciousness. I just need to improve my day-to-day life. I need a better job. I need my relationships suck.
Right. I just want to attract abundance. And abundance can mean everything. It could be, everybody's definition of abundance is different.
Yes. Yes. But abundance in general, it's not just about money.
No, it's not.
Prosperity. It's abundance in life.
Everything. Yes.
So, a lot of people just have a lot of hang-up. There are techniques with the source code meditation, because source code meditation will actually offer you like a map. It's a system that once you wake up the brain, you activate the salutogenic response, you have that, you're absorbing these meditations. Then there are techniques and practices that you do looking down into the spiral of your personal development. Finding those, a lot of people call them hot spots or buttons or shadows.
A sweet spot.
Yeah, finding those and cleaning them up. And it doesn't take sitting there with psychoanalysis for, going to a therapist.
No.
There's a technique. He has everything built in there. Everything built in there. Really, his program is probably the most intense, comprehensive personal transformation program around. Because he has incorporated everything that I have looked into. It's all in his program. In one way, shape, or form. And, the guy's a genius.
What are some experiences that you've had with meditation?
With
some, like the highest level of meditation? Like, what does it feel like? What do you do? What's going on?
Some of the highest ones, nothing goes on. I blank out. I'm in another place.
Right.
I don't even know I'm there. It's awesome. The whole idea of identity. We have all these different identities as we grow up. But when you reach that higher level of consciousness, you detach from those identities. You feel the presence within you that's independent of the material world. So you actually are observing the one that's in the immaterial world. So you're seeing, Michael Cotton calls it the transcendent self. There's a soul awakening and a transcendent awakening. So you are no longer necessarily the human being with skin.
No.
You have, and we all have, universal consciousness, which is the transcendent self, within us.
And I call it the spirit man.
So the objective is, when I first recognized it, it gave me such a feeling of liberation to know it's not up to me. I was the control freak, okay? It's not up to me. There's something greater than me in me, and it knows best. So when you hear that still small voice, that voice that says, don't forget your keys, and you turn around, that to me is that little voice. There were so many times I ignored it, and each time when I woke up to the fact that it was that, I started paying attention. Sometimes I didn't listen to it. Because then I would have to. I screwed up. I need to listen to that voice. So when you know you have that in you, and it's part of you, it's running into you, through you, and out you. It's in you, out you. It's almost like feeling like you're cradled. You're taken care of. You have a safety net under you, and nothing could go wrong. It's going to be okay no matter what happens. No matter what. And it's a liberation. When I felt that, and I had a lot of illnesses, little by little, I started getting healthier because I wasn't stressing and going crazy and having the anxiety all the time, worrying about the future that I had no control over anyway, right? At that point. But knowing that, I've got a team in me. I am that I am.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing, you can't compare that feeling. And that's what I want to awaken people to, that you're to who they are without their story.
And people are afraid of it. And I want people to not be afraid. I don't know. I have seen so many things when I'm meditating that I have asked in the physical world, and all of a sudden I get it when I'm meditating. It's the most awesome feeling because I'm like, wow, I just got it. What does that mean? The soul to awaken.
Soul awakening is when you first recognize that the I that you are is not the I, Linda, that's here.
Okay.
That there's something in us watching that Linda.
Mm-hmm.
And that something is here and will continue on, and it comes with a purpose.
Yes.
And it will continue on beyond the point of your body.
Right.
And take on another form until its purpose is fulfilled. That's the first, because Dr. Cotton said there's sequential unfolding. These are enlightenment states. The soul awakening, the transcendent awakening, and then there's the unitary awakening. Those are 3 enlightenment states, and they're sequential. And he didn't come up with them. He researched it, and all these Tibetan monks and everybody else, the world traditions. You go from one to the other, God willing. Ultimately, you're waking up your authentic self. Okay, the soul awakening is waking up your authentic self. And it has a plan for you. And when you wake up to it, and you wake up to the plan, there's no going back. You have to keep going forward. Otherwise, you're going to be stifling yourself and you're going to get sick. Whenever I stifled myself, I started feeling symptoms again. And it's like, all right.
And your body is spoiled now. It doesn't want that.
It's restricted. The identity in the human body is restrictive. It's constrictive.
Yeah.
The soul, the authentic self, wants to be out there in the world helping others, doing, being of service to others and humanity in general. The transcendent self is looking out for everyone, right? Now, you're in really good spaces when you get into the transcendent states. You feel a little more, and you, like you said, people might get scared. That time, though, is then when you connect the human ego personality, Linda, with the transcendent self, and you go into the unitary, where you take it out into the world. So when you're walking out into the world with both the personality and the trend, you're unstoppable. Wow. You get everything you want. That's when the synchronicities happen. Ooh. Now, when you say synchronicities, they're things, events that happen, things that come to you in perfect alignment with what you want.
Come on.
And it's the other day, I said something to my friend, I had her here helping me scan things and stuff. I was like, you're going to get me, I'm just going to turn around and get another desktop. Because we were having computer glitches, and I was getting all frustrated. That night, a woman texted me and said, "Are you in the market for a new desktop?" I'm like, for $295. Like, yes, thank you. Thank you, God. It's like those things happen. So it's like ask and you shall receive.
Yes, when you get into that level, you have to be very careful what comes out of your mouth and even your thoughts. Like, I get everything that I say or even think about. I'm like, oh my God, I just said I wanted that. And I got it.
Who doesn't want to live a beautiful life? I know. Everybody starts off at a different point. You've gotten awakened on some level.
Yes.
Okay?
Absolutely.
So now it's a matter of, how do you better navigate it? How do you leverage it?
Okay.
And that is what Higher Brain Living and Source Code Meditation offer. A map. A strategy, how to approach and to understand it.
Okay.
Because context, the whole knowing what you're going through, when you're going through it, it just helps you navigate. I came back from India. That's how I originally awakened, through something else that led me to India. And when I came back, I was really discombobulated, and I didn't know which way was up. I didn't know what to do with it. I had gone there for like 28 days, so that was a pretty intense. I came back, and that was like more than just culture shock.
Wow.
But I had no one to tell me or to explain, well, this is what you're experiencing, this is what you're experiencing. And that's what Higher Brain Living and Source Code Meditation provides. Dr. Cotton explains things in a lot of depth. His every sentence is dense.
Yeah, it is.
But It could get broke down by repetition because every time you listen to it, you're absorbing from a different level of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And you do get it. You transform. And then you start noticing. And you're like, okay, this is working for me. And it reinforces.
Mm-hmm.
You have that positive reinforcement. And life will never be the same. You won't want to go back.
No. And so you do transform and you see yourself making better decisions on everything you do. That's true.
Yeah, because our thoughts lead to emotions.
Yes.
The emotions lead to choices.
Absolutely.
And then our choices lead to the actions we take. So how are you going to get to your destiny unless you clean up your thoughts, cleaning up your emotions, knowing what choices to make and take the right actions to get to the destiny that you want? It's just amazing to live this life. And walking around, seeing people, hearing people's stories. And we have a lot of stories. We really do. And they're, my heart goes out to people. But there's a way out. There's no reason to continue to suffer. There's no reason for these suicides. And especially when I hear of children committing suicide and all these, addictions, the opioid crisis and children in foster care, being put in foster care because their parents are just not being able to handle the complexities of the world. Mm-hmm. And they're trying to escape, trying to make that feel better or whatever. And it's like, we've got to take action. And I really appreciate your show, Fire to Inspire, because, you're giving people hope. And I mean, thank you, because it's imperative that we all do something to help humanity. Because if we continue in this trajectory and we don't create a tipping point where more and more people are waking up to the fact that they're far greater than they could ever imagine, they just need to release those stories. If we don't do that, it's going to be devastating. Yeah. I mean, the human has evolved. It could very easily go into distinction,
I know. Yeah.
And I'd hate for that to happen.
I know, yeah. I don't want it to happen either. What is the New Human University?
The New Human University is the compilation of higher brain living and source code meditation taken to the highest level that it could possibly go.
Okay.
It offers, like I said, the most profound, comprehensive personal transformation experience. Mm. So a person could actually go to the New Human University. It's physical and online and things like that, webinars and things like that for their personal transformation. Mm-hmm. I mean, if this is resonating with anybody and they really want to put some full-time effort into it, they can. Yes. But it also trains you to become a source code meditation facilitator and a higher brain living facilitator. So it could take, you could do it real quick, within a year, if you're really buckled down.
A year.
Yeah.
Okay.
It could take
so it's really 4 years.
It's very extensive.
Okay.
It's very extensive. It depends on what level of development and consciousness you're at already as to how long,
it would take.
Yeah. But you self-pace. Mm. It's only recently launched. Those of us that are involved in it we shifted from higher brain living, and he called it the New Human University Conveyor. So we were the beta group.
Okay.
And now he's taking new enrollees, and they're enrolling from all over the world. I mean, we've got a German woman ready to move to Chicago as soon as she can get her visa in place.
And he knows his stuff.
Yes.
And it all makes sense. When I looked at, what you sent me, it was really good.
Yeah. The New Human University, it first teaches you to recognize that, well, let's just say the new human knows that evolution of consciousness has actually enabled its own conscious evolution. It's powerful because just as a child develops and goes through stages of development, so does consciousness, so does the human evolution. Mm-hmm. So when you fully grasp, and he teaches it all in detail, you take that all in, you can't help but know how powerful you are and that you have the capacity to be that new human. Mm. Because once we get this out there, and more people are turning on their higher brain, it will turn, the synchronicities are going to be happening for everybody.
Yeah.
All kinds of psychic abilities, that intuition,
Yes.
all those things. That part of the brain that we're not tapping into enough has unlimited potential that we don't even know about. And that is where humans are evolving to. We weren't given that part of the brain not to use it.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Cotton, he's going to go down in history books. You know, whether we have textbook history books or online, or whatever they are, or telepathically. You know, it's like, okay,
we're just gonna know he's gonna be on there, right?
Yeah, because it's just, it really is amazing. It's revolutionary.
And that's what I want to teach people, to not be so religious that you'll miss out on the revelation. I want people to be revolutionary. I want them to understand that you can be your higher self at this level. And I'm going to say it again. How can God connect to you when you don't have no power? He can't plug into any one of us on earth. Everybody says, oh, I have faith. I can do this. And you can say it out of your mouth, but do you really attach that to your deepest thought? There is a law to this. There is a mechanic to this. There's techniques to tapping into your higher self. And I just want people to be aware of that. That's it.
Listen, look at it just from the perspective of the man was begotten by, you know, I mean, all right?
Right.
God doesn't bestow that degree of genius and intelligence on one of his children for them not to share it and for the other children not to take it. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Right.
We've all, if you want to look at it from that perspective, we've all inherited God's DNA. And whatever he's capable of, we are capable of. So you could talk that until you're blue in the face, but until you own it. And that's what raising your level of consciousness does. It allows you to own what you are. You're not just some mediocre little person that was born here and lives in this city, doesn't move, or, you know, lives that job and then just dies after 90 years. And no, you are far greater than that. You have the power that God has because you inherited it. So use it. And you're doing yourself a disservice when you don't. And the people around you are suffering. So what do you want to leave your children? That's a big one. I ask people all the time, if you knew your child had something in its body that would give him every opportunity there is in the world, would you deny your child that? So turn it on yourself and then turn your kid's brain on and give him that unlimited potential.
Yes.
Opportunity. It's just...
That's good, Linda. That's really good. Wow. I'm just sitting here and I'm just really grateful for you right now. I'm so grateful we added you on this series, and it wouldn't be the same without you. Because I'm telling you, what you're telling us and what you're feeding us is so good. And it's really helpful. So what ignites the fire within you to do what you love every day?
The fire in me is driven by saving humanity and alleviating the suffering I see. My heart is the world's heart. And I feel for everyone. And that's my passion, to just wake people up to who they are without those stories. I know I'll liberate them from the suffering. So that's what I'm about.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining Fire to Inspire. But tell people how they can find you online.
You can find me by going to Awakening You, the letter U, to the number 2. So awakeningyou2.com.
Awesome. Well, all right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining this party with a purpose. I'll catch you next week. All right, it's getting real hot up in here because I'm so fired up.
When they strike, we light